Um, Coordinate, think you're muted. Yes, welcome to the
Yes,
mailbox
yes,
there,
yes.
Courtney.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Kevin. Good afternoon. Mailbox World, good afternoon. www dot World Wide Web. You're listening to the program and also viewing the program, the mailbox here live on Love 101 FM, the family station. It's good to have you here. Today is July the 14th. Can't believe it. 2022. More than half the year has already elapsed and we're moving on quite quickly. Me, it's the 2022 done already. It's the 13th,
Mm.
Oh my goodness. See, I'm rushing the time. But I want us to just tune in. This is the program that's designed for men, you know, hosted by men. And indeed, our guests are men. And this happens every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. right here on Love 101, the family station. With me, Courtney Morrison, and with me is my co-host.
Yes, Kevin Bailey. Greetings, man and man, from Moran Point in Negril. Great to be with you. And we have to give thanks. We're alive. And so, wherever you are at this time, we want to acknowledge you. Thank you for joining us on this very special afternoon. We want to say thanks to our sponsor, Foswich Company Limited, your electrical, solar, and lighting people. And they have been good to us and continue to support men as we challenge, encourage, and empower our men to become the best, to become who they were created to become. So today we're going to have a great program. We have some fantastic guests with us. The topic today is forgiveness, a man's guide to moving on. I'm very encouraged to see the emphasis on forgiveness this year. I've never seen it like this before, and I'm wondering if it's just me, or is it that there's something that is happening in the spirit world while we are being encouraged to look at this topic, forgiveness and a man's guide to moving on. Is it harder for a man to forgive? Why would a Christian man struggle with unforgiveness, especially when we have the Holy Spirit inside of us? What are some of the impacts of unforgiveness? Can a man truly forgive and forget? Should we forget, or you should only forgive but never forget? I'm so very happy that we have qualified guests to answer these questions and more. Courtney, what to say?
Yes, and big topic indeed. I
Yes.
want us to really pay attention to these guests. Our guests, we have as one of our guests, Major Damien Friend, and he's the presiding bishop for the NETA Ministries. He's also chaplain in the Jamaica Defense Force. Yes, he's a justice of the peace and he's a cognitive behavioral therapist. He is the managing director of Creative Insights Limited, a company which assists organizations and individuals create the future they desire through actions by strategic psychological insights, therapy, coaching, and training. He's also a father and a husband. Major Friend is one of our guests for today.
And I have to confess, Major Damien, friend is a friend of mine. Long time I haven't seen him, but I still claim, before he got all of these accolades and before he has all these fantastic titles, and so I want to claim that I knew him, right? Uh, Damien, welcome to the mailbox again.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Great to see you, brother Kevin.
Ah, great. Thank you for really giving us the privilege of having you this afternoon. And so we are supposed to be having also Pastor Christoph Hyman is pastor at Wild Cane District of Seventh Day Adventist Churches. From a very early age, he accepted the call to pastoral ministry after becoming a member of the Warsaw SDA Church in Trelawney. He is husband of one wife, and he has an interesting story as well. Welcome, Pastor Hyman. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
It's our privilege, and I am very happy that I am not sitting in either of your shoes, because there are some questions I know, and lots of people want to know about this topic. But thank you so very very much. I want to invite our listeners to watch the program live on social media, Facebook and YouTube. Love 101 FM Jamaica, ladies and gentlemen. You can comment via our Facebook or YouTube, or via our WhatsApp line. Our WhatsApp line 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. Courtney, I think it's time that we heal up the man them before we go any further. What you say?
Yeah. We also want to remind the men that you can give us a call at 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. Those are our direct lines, and we do want you to call in. We do want you to ask questions. Last week, we were privileged to having a man actually call the young lady, read the child, and really seek forgiveness. So today's topic is going to be somewhat of a little bit of an extension, total different program, but an extension. Really want to shout out the man, man and man, and to everyone who out there. We just want to say after three, 1, 2, 3, Monday!
Yes, man
Holy
in the
command.
place. And we have to say it, because sometimes we hear the erroneous argument that there's no man, or we can't find men of integrity, or all the good men are gone. And we know that's not true, right? We have many of our brothers who are working very hard, making their contribution, and not perfect, but men of integrity. And this afternoon we have two such men as our guests. So we're gonna go at least get a little idea of a little bit about our men before we go into the real program. We're talking about what is forgiveness. When can I forgive? Do I need to forget? Can remembering trigger unforgiveness? We're talking about situations where you had to forgive someone, and was that easy? How did you do it? All of those things and more. So, those are some of the things we want to look at, Courtney. So, how do we start?
Well, let's start with Sir Damien Friend, Major Friend. What is forgiveness? We'd love to hear your definition. And also, Sir Hyman, please be prepared to answer the same question.
God bless you, sir, and all. Now, to forgive means to hurl away. It has to do with casting off or throwing away that which has been done against you. It speaks to the canceling of a debt, the releasing of an offender from that debt. It speaks to the giving up of the resentment and or the desire to punish or to be revengeful. Yeah, so forgiving is really the giving up of that resentment. It's the casting away of that offense which has been done or perpetrated against you.
Awesome, hurling away. Pastor Hyman, anything you want to add? Anything you want to expound on? Let us hear. What is forgiveness?
Yes, good evening again, gentlemen, and all the men that are listening, and our female counterparts who are also listening. Forgiveness is really letting go. The basic definition for forgiveness is letting go of the things that would have hurt you, that other persons would have done to you. I recall them, the offender would have done to you. Really, forgetting, forgetting to allow them to pay the consequences of the action that they would have done to you. Really pardoning a person for what they have done. Forgiving is basically not allowing what the person has done to destroy the relationship that you share, or coming back to a better understanding of each other. So forgiving in the basic term is really letting go. letting go is what forgiveness is.
Thank you, Pastor Hyman, and thank you, brothers. No, the question follows because we know human beings are essentially selfish. We are
Mm,
told that we want to protect our own borders. We're supposed to have boundaries, and it almost seems instinctive or natural. If somebody hurt you, that you just supposed to hurt them back, like. And I'm wondering, especially for men, is it an easy thing to do, Major Damien, for a man to really allow another man to diss him and do some things against him, and him just take it like a little girl? I am just throwing the thing out there. How the argument goes, right? And doesn't that make him feel soft, like him on a man? Him can't stand up to him territory and defend the thing. Sir Damien, talk to us. How we deal with that?
I can see that you are very au fait with the way people think and posit on this issue, because very often that is the concern. And the studies that have been done, they're actually not conclusive. There are some studies that suggest that the male gender finds it more difficult to forgive than the female gender. There are some which suggest otherwise. There are some which suggest that there is no great difference there. So scientifically, the jury is still out. But one thing is certain, is the fact that based on socialization, our men very often consider forgiveness to be more feminine, and consider forgiveness to be a sign or a trait of weakness. Yes. Now, of course, that is based on socialization that does not recognize the reality of what it takes to forgive, because the fact is, it it is a lot to forgive. To forgive, it takes a lot out of you. Yes, it takes strength to forgive. And
Mm,
so it is not possible for a weak person to forgive. Actually,
mm,
it is way easier to be vengeful. It is way
mm,
easier to simply act according to the emotions and just react that, okay, you do me something, me do your back. Yes, that's easy. That doesn't take effort. It takes a lot more strength, and I dare say sometimes it takes more than our normal human strength. It requires the enabling power of the Holy Spirit to be
mm,
able to even forgive some things that are done to us, depending on what is done. So it is harder sometimes, but because of socialization. And so men in general tends to be a little bit more vengeful, would tend to be more of the type that, okay, I've got to defend it, I've got to prove a point. There's the issue of the ego, and so when the ego gets bruised, then there is that reaction. And so it takes a lot more to control yourself. And so there's that issue. Is it the weaker person? No. It is a stronger person who is able to hold himself back and refrain from doing what he has a right to do.
mhm,
mm.
mhm, mhm.
How do we, thank you, Major friend. How do we convince our men that that is truth? We are presented two sides. Pastor Hyman, how do we convince our men that it takes more to forgive and it is a strong individual who forgive? How do we convince the psyche that that is so?
Well, as Major said, men are socialized in a way to share that it's a weak man who really let go of certain things and allow, because people see forgiveness as someone taking advantage of you. When you forgive, it's saying that you are condoning the offense that the
Mhm.
person has done, or you're pretending as if it never happened. So for a man, it is difficult. While it is difficult to convince a man that it is good too, is to suggest to that individual that when you forgive, what you really did is help yourself to be healed of the hurt that has been done to you. Because the reality is, you not forgiving somebody of something that they have done to you. Forgiving, if you don't forgive the offender, what you're really doing is causing your entire life to be a place of hurting other people, because hurting people really hurt people. So the more you store up unforgiveness in your heart, is the more you hurt someone else that you actually want to care for, especially for men who have close knitted families. You destroy your family by being unforgiving.
Hmm. Oh, that's a big one, and I'm gonna ask a major friend to continue along that vein. What are some of the destructive consequences of unforgiveness, as Pastor Hyman started out, and also we want both of you to share what are some of the benefits, because how our brain works. We want reward or punishment. What are we gonna be rewarded with as men? What is there for us to say be excited and say, yeah man, make me deal with that thing again? Since what is in it for us? Major friend.
All right, thank you so much. And just before, if I may, just before I go there, if I may, I'd like to make a point regarding the issue of forgiveness and why it is that sometimes we see it as such a difficult thing. The challenge is that sometimes, and too many times, we mistake forgiveness for other things. And so we believe that if we forgive, it means that justice will no longer be served.
Mm,
Or
Mm,
if we forgive, it releases you of consequences. Or
mm,
if we forgive, there is a necessity of reconciliation. And
mm,
none of those things is true, right? The fact that I forgive you does not mean you will not be required to bear consequences of your
that's right.
actions.
That's right.
Actually, even when God forgives us, it does not release us of consequences. It may release us of eternal consequences, but there are certain consequences that we will still face in this life for poor decisions and wrong
Mm,
actions, right?
mhm,
Because I've forgiven you, it doesn't mean that justice will not be served. All it means, like Pastor Hyman said, is that I have let go of that hurt and pain that I have been holding. And I can use that now to segue into some of the negative things about unforgiveness, because studies have shown that persons who have an issue of unforgiveness, they have a greater risk of heart attack.
mm,
mm,
When you with cases with persons who practice forgiveness, studies have shown that they lower the risk of heart attack, they improve their cholesterol levels, they improve their sleep, it reduces pain, it reduces blood pressure, the levels of anxiety and depression and stress are
mm,
significantly reduced. Yes, however, people who hang on to grudges, they tend to suffer from PTSD, post traumatic stress disorders. They tend to be more likely to have clinical depression. You find that sometimes they have what we call toxic anger. Yes, and that's a sort of anger that creates not only the outward damage, but it also damages the organs because of the chemicals that are consistently being released at high
mhm,
doses and for too long in the system. And so it was found, there was a research that was done that found that anger and hostility are linked to a higher risk of heart disease and poorer outcomes for
mhm,
persons who already have heart disease. Yes, and so it was also found that when you that persons with low levels of forgiveness, they would have major issues as it concerns lifetime, because the accumulated lifetime stress is
Mm.
significantly higher than those who do not have unforgiveness as a part of their lifetime experience.
Wow, that is indeed a lot of negative consequences. Just taking them one by one, we know stress by itself um, affects so many parts of us, physically, mentally, emotionally, and relationships as well. And can you imagine heart disease, cholesterol level affecting your sleep? I know on an average, women are outliving men 8 to 12 years, especially in marriages. And I wonder if it's because the men are holding on to this stuff as well
Yeah.
emotionally. So we're having some interactions as well. Good evening to you all. Interesting topic. Men has ego challenges, so it's harder for them. Says
Mm-hmm.
one point of view, and another one poses a question, Pastor Hyman, and you could start it. Is there a limit to forgiveness? Is there a limit to forgiveness, Pastor Hyman? What do you say?
That question is a question that is asked so many times. And I believe sometimes it is asked because some people have believed that they have emptied their slate when it comes down to forgiveness, because there are so many persons who would have hurt them over and over and over again. But as a pastor, as a child of God, I want us to go to the scriptures where Jesus, it was asked of Jesus how much times we should forgive. And based on the calculation that Jesus gave, is basically 490 times per day. And I don't believe that anybody has been subjected to hurt so much for the day that they should forgive. So forgiveness is limitless. However, you must exercise wisdom in your forgiveness. If someone hurts you, the decision that you take is that you are going to be careful not to be hurt again. And one of the things I have learned in my short few years is that sometimes breaking off relationships is also helping you to forgive the person. Breaking off is healthy, and so we have to also look into that from a man's perspective too. uh, a lot of times we say that we forgive, but what we really do is a mouth talk. For the want of a better statement, is a mouth talk. So what you find happening is that you say you forgive, but every time a situation of that sort comes around, there is some level of what we call in clinical psychology counter transference. So for men who are in uh, authoritative responsibilities, like leading a particular area. Say, for example, a principal who is in a school setting, um, a, a, a situation comes to the principal of a high school love relationship. Sometimes there is a little challenge with the principal tackling that little love relationship that is happening at school, no matter how minimal it seems, because the principal is having a bigger issue at home with a relationship. He said that he would have forgiven his wife, but during his time of counseling, that those two children, counter transference chips in, and then he goes back to what is happening at home. So there are a lot of different issues, and men have been marginalized in a way to say that he's not feeling anything, so he can forgive and move on, he can let go and move on. But the reality is, not because the man does not bring it up does not mean that it's not hurting him.
Thank you, Pastor Hyman. I would love for us to explore this thing called ego a bit more, for us to understand. You know, every time I hear about an issue with a man, I hear the word ego
Yes,
coming up.
yes, yes.
And I know you psychologists must have some form of a definition to, for that for us as men. So I have two questions. The issue of ego and something that Major Friend touched on. He touched a scripture regarding forgiveness, and the issue though is the one of reconciliation. If Colossians 3:13 says forgive as Christ forgave, when Christ forgives, does he reconcile? It's one of those big questions. But I want us to talk about the issue of ego. What is it? We have about 2.5 minutes before the break. But what is ego for those who are listening? Break that down for us so that our men can understand, because those are who we're trying to ensure we get to really get this problem out of the way. What is ego? Major?
All right, I'll take it, and I'm gonna take it in the context of the conversation, because of course we could go into some deep psychological terms and be talking about id and ego and super,
Mr. Fraud
yeah,
and Stigma.
and get
Tell us.
very Freudian and all, right? But usually when persons speak of the man and his ego, usually what they're really referring to is his sense of self-esteem or self-importance. It is his
Yes,
sense of self that
yes,
they're speaking of. And it is a reality that men tend to have a very uh, interesting relationship with our sense of self. Yes, because for us, for men, our sense of identity is very significant
May we
for
stick a
us.
pin there, Major? We have a caller online. Stick it right there. Sense of identity and esteem, the value for men. We have a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. Welcome to the mailbox.
Good afternoon, my pastor, my brother, my sister. Yes, here in if there's a limit in forgiveness.
There is a limit.
As the Christian was asked if there's a limit in forgiveness.
Hmm.
I don't believe there's a limit in forgiveness. But what I would say, you have to have the amount of grace, because you forgive the person for what he has done you. But at the same time, the same person who you forgive, in attitude not change, in still a continue doing the same thing. So if you want to forgive such a one, you have to really line up with God, because although you forgive the person not change, you know. The
hmm,
attitude is the same way. So I would have asked, how one would have deal with that the case? Because look, you forgive the person. Bow submission and say, well, I have done you the thing, so forgive me. But you had the intention to forgive him. And he may think saying sorry, but he not change. He not change. He still a go along and people are tell you say, if you forgive the person, you can't you're not supposed to remember it. You going to remember it because the person not change. Even if you don't have the mind to remember. As you see him as the attitude in God, continue with the same attitude. So how you deal with that? You understand? You have to
Hmm.
full of God, my brother. You have
Uh,
to full of God.
yes, you have to pull on God, but remember, we
Really.
are also
Jesus
responsible
said
only
70
for our
times, 70 times 7 for a day. We agree, so nobody might not doing that. But for the years going on, the person not changing, still have to do something. So you have to full of God.
Uh, uh,
Nobody have
uh,
come tell you, say, you're not a member, you can't, why if you forgive the person, you can't remember it. No go so. Because the person not change. So even if you
well,
have the
caller.
mind to remember it, you don't remember it, you still can't. So as you see me come up to you, because I not change.
yeah.
All right, caller. Thank you
Well,
very much.
thank you for the perspective. We're gonna ask our two guests to respond. So thank you so much for the perspective and the question. So they're gonna be answering. Really appreciate your contribution. Yes,
Before we go
Pastor
back into any
Hyman, and
conversation,
then
before we
you
go back
go
in any
back. Yeah.
conversation, though, we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to throw to studio. We should be back in 5 minutes. So remember those about self identity and esteem. You're listening to the mailbox. We'll be right back.
Phosphate 60 days up to 60% discount sale is on now. Sale on electrical, lighting, solar cables. Get Philips LED bulbs for $190. Visit all branches for breakers, panels, solar floodlights, wires, switches, lighting, and more lighting. Happy 60th anniversary, Jamaica. Sale ends August 31. Open Sundays. Visit www.phosrich.shop.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Bashko time. All the things that you need for your home with prices so low, you would never need a loan at Bashko. At Bashko. Shopping. Appliances, house with furniture and rugs, gifts and linens and glass and mugs at Bashko. You're shopping at Bashko. Whether the north or so in the east and the west, Bashko, them all over, they must be the best at Bashko. At Bashko. You're shopping at Bashko. At Bashko. 30 years giving you more.
Importers. Shipments requiring you to pay customs duties and taxes are cleared on a customs goods declaration, known as an IM4 or IMS4. Ask your clearing agent to provide your customs declaration, customs assessment notice, and customs receipt once duties and taxes are paid. Where your clearing agent may not be able to provide the IM4 or IMS4, request your customs goods declaration registration number or C number, which can be used to verify your payments. Importers, request your IM4, IMS4, or C number. It is your right. For details, email the Jamaica Customs Agency at public.relations@jca.gov.jm. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
Excuse pass me cellular phone. Pull out me Digicel SIM card alone. With the golden SIM me a flourish. Win a weekly 1 mil for your home.
You could win $1 million in the Digicel Golden SIM promotion. To enter, just top up, activate a plan, or any other qualified action. Check the first 18 digits of your SIM card. Then visit Digicel's social media pages or the My Digicel app on Tuesdays to find out if you have the Golden SIM for the week. Call 876-619-5000 to claim your prize. Text 142 to 137 for more info.
Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming, and Lotteries Act.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Welcome back to the mailbox and Love 101 FM, the family station. This is the time where we challenge and encourage and empower our men. And this is where we bring out the best in our men. We believe that they're men of integrity, and we continue to nurture our boys to men. I just want to acknowledge our sponsor, Phosrich Company Limited, your electrical, solar, and lighting people. They have been doing a fantastic job giving us light by sponsoring us right here. So before we continue, we left off Major Damien Friend was speaking about ego. Courtney was asking to just share a little bit about the ego and also to touch on this business of reconciliation. Should there be reconciliation? And then we want your feedback on what the caller says about how do you limit this recurrence of being hurt over and over again. So hold for questions. Major, please continue.
Okay, thank you. So, as I was saying before, there is for a man's identity is very important to him, and so for us, how we see self is significant, and because of that, you find that how we respond to others is usually reflecting or reflective of how we see ourselves. It's reflective of our identity as we perceive it. Now, because of that, because a man's identity is so significant for him, then a man seeks to protect his identity. It is important that he is seen as the sort of man that he wants to be seen to be. So much so that if you notice, even in relationships, a man and woman relationship, then as we'd call it, all right, the woman, her thing is she needs to be loved. The man's thing is he needs to be respected. The man sees respect as love. So much so that even in the scriptures, when we look at the scriptures in Ephesians, the man is told to love his wife. The woman is told to respect her husband. Because the identity of a man is of paramount importance to the man. And so that is why you will find that when it comes to issues like these, there is sometimes a conundrum that the man finds himself in, because things being done to him, he sees his response as being determinant of his identity. And so therefore, if he feels like his identity is attacked, then he believes that he must defend that identity. Now, of course, the challenge is that sometimes the interpretation and definition of our identity is sometimes flawed. It's sometimes flawed because of distorted thinking, sometimes poor socialization, etc. And so sometimes we overreact. Sometimes we are defending things that does not really have to be defended. Sometimes it is an issue of a wrong perspective, again, because of socialization experiences, how we interpret life, because we see life through the lenses of our experiences. So that is usually where the issue comes in.
So let the man have it tough, man.
Indeed. 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 Now, of course, as it concerns the issue of reconciliation, just trying to touch that quickly since, in the interest of time, I said it before. Because I forgive you, it does not necessarily mean I must reconcile with you. And I heard you, Pastor Marson, you raise that scripture, forgive as Christ does. And I mean, doesn't Christ reconcile with us? But let us also remember that even Christ has told us through the apostle that there are certain persons who seek to cause division and strife, when all has been done to seek to prevent that, to change that. If they are unwilling to change, we are supposed to put them outside of the family.
One scripture said, mark their faces.
Yes, and have no company with them. Right, and that is one of the things that we must remember. And so I think that also helps to answer the question that the caller asked, because the fact that I have forgiven you does not mean that I am required to put myself in continued danger. And so if it is that your behavior is such that it is going to put me in danger, or it is so dysfunctional that it is going to be causing other issues, I forgive you by letting go of the hurt and the pain and the reminiscing of the wrong that you have done to me. But I put boundaries in place so that you are not able to continue perpetuating the same wrong, because allowing you to perpetuate the same wrong is not about being godly, it's about being foolish.
You're hearing it here all on the mailbox. The major is telling you in military terms how this thing.
I just want to add to Major's comment, and right where he left off is where I want to start. forgiveness is not equivalent to being foolish. And I want to say that again. You see, forgiveness is not equivalent to being foolish and behaving naive. If someone hurts you and you know that they have the possibility of giving you doing the same hurt again, what you are actually doing is putting yourself in the position to be unforgiving. You're putting yourself in the position to say, I am going to allow this person to take advantage of me. So when it comes on to the limit, it is important to note that the reconciliation that you're expecting is not necessarily that the person that hurt you, you and them are going to be bununus friends again. But what you're basically saying is that you have let go of what the person has done to you, and you're not letting it happen again. Noting though that no matter how many times the person has hurt you, you must forgive, because I think it's Jody Picoult who said, forgiving isn't something that you are doing for someone else, but it's what you are doing for yourself. And even in the scriptures in Matthew chapter 6, verse 12, where we see the Our Father prayer, sometimes we repeat the Our Father prayer just as a Christian rhetoric. So we just say it because we were told to say it in primary school and so on and so forth. But the words are very important to resonate with the heart. When we are praying the Our Father prayer, we say, Lord, forgive us as we forgive our debtors. And I want us to note that carefully. It's not just something that you jump over in the prayer. It must be noted carefully. You're saying, God, forgive me as I forgive others. The things that I charge others for, Lord, forgive me so that I can and not only that, you're saying that you forgive them before you ask God to forgive you. So there are many persons who are walking around not forgiven because they have so many persons that they have not forgiven. So sometimes we come to church and we praise the Lord that we are forgiven, we are saved by grace, we are blessed of the Lord and all of those things. But until you forgive those around you, you cannot reap the benefits of forgiveness from the Lord. So when you forgive others, you're really allowing God the opportunity to issue to you the forgiveness that you desire. Because if we want to be saved, then we must learn to forgive.
Pastor Hyman, I think verse 14 of St. Matthew
Right.
6 put it even stronger. It says, for if you do not forgive others, neither will I forgive you. Outside of the prayer, the ambit of the prayer itself, verse 14 and 15 says it even more strongly. Yes, Kev?
No, very, very important. Nelson Mandela says, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yes.
And in hearing both of you speak as well about the reconciliation, we try our best to reconcile with person as far as it lies within our power. And I think of Jesus saying, Father, forgive them. They do not know what they have done. And so he has forgiven them, but many persons will spend eternity apart from him. There's no reconciliation because they have chosen not to. So, forgiveness requires only one person. Reconciliation requires both parties. And that is the challenge there as well. There's a big question here. Why would a Christian man struggle with unforgiveness? Gentlemen, help us to understand that. And our listeners, we are water baptized, Holy Ghost filled, Jesus in our mind, running for the prize. As men, we have the Holy Spirit. So you're not supposed to ease the man. I mean, the non-Christian know how that. Pastor, start off. Since you are pastor, start off with us.
Pastor Bailey, I want to say that one of the reasons men struggle with unforgiveness so much, and even Christian men, is because a lot of men have not forgiven the world for the oppression that they have raised men through. Let me just explain that a little. Men grow up being abused and and many times we take it as being teaching a man to be tough. And so men are hurting really and not getting a chance to express their hurt. So they don't know how to forgive because they have learned that being tough, being unforgiving is really being the man in town.
To be
And
a
that
man is
yes,
not to forgive. It's
yes, yes. And so right now, right across the world, even where we have mass leaders, men who are out there, whenever they have done something wrong in the eyes of the public, they prefer to step down than to apologize.
yeah.
And that happens in church too, because and Bishop Friend touched on that earlier to say that the ego is what is being bruised. A lot of times men are abused, and so unforgiveness is bound up in their heart, so it's difficult for them to forgive. So one of the first step in really forgiving others is that a lot of our men in this world need to forgive the world for treating them so badly.
We're going to come right back to that, Pastor Hyman. We're going to take a studio break and come right back. We definitely need to jump into that for the next 15 minutes. You're listening to the mailbox, so come right back.
NHF is here for you. Getting that discount on my daughter's medication is a relief. The NHF card makes it so affordable that she doesn't miss a dose. Whenever my parents visit a public hospital, I can fill their prescription at drug-serve pharmacies at no extra cost. Not to mention, renovating and building new health centers, hospital wards, and providing new medical equipment. The NHF is always helping to take care of my family. The NHF is here for health. The NHF is here for you.
Phoenix Health and Vision Center now has 2 locations. St. Anne's Bay, 65 Main Street beside the health center. And now Shop 30 Champion Plaza, Falmouth, Trelawney. You heard me right. Shop 30 Champion Plaza, Falmouth, Trelawney. The only full-service eye care center for all your designer frames and designer glasses. Plus, complete eye care. Book all your appointments now in St. Anne's Bay. Call 876-972-2388. 876-589-8327. For Falmouth and its environs, call this number 876-533-0540. Looking forward to seeing you at both locations. Phoenix Health and Vision Center. Now at Champion Plaza, Falmouth, Trelawney.
Yes. In the Lord we trust. Welcome back to the mailbox. You're live on Love 101 on Facebook and IG, on www.love101.org as well. And you're live on air listening. I'm Courtney Morrison, your co-host with Kevin Bailey, and we have 2 special guests with us, Major Damien Friend and Pastor Christoph Hyman. And we're discussing the topic of forgiveness, men and forgiveness, and moving on. Pastor Hyman, we are at the stage where I believe you're bringing up solutions, because what I would love to hear are the practical steps we can take in helping men to achieve. You have declared that it's our society have raised us. We have suffered at the hands of being abused, and being taught not to apologize and not to forgive is really being manly and standing up and saying, my position is the position. How do we change that? How do we get men, from boys to men, to understand and to relinquish that hold on that position and get the correct position that's in God? Pastor Hyman, we want to start off back with you, seeing that's where you start.
Yes. So what we are really, I'm very passionate, and I want to say I'm very, very, very passionate about how much our men get hurt by society. And that is one of the greatest reasons men are so unforgiving. When it comes on to even in schools, men are when something goes wrong in the school, the men are blamed to the boys at that time. They are not men yet, but the boys are blamed sometimes for the ills of society, the wars that are happening, the murders that are taking place. Many times the men are blamed, and the reality is that sometimes men are just puppet of the wrongdoings that they do. So we are getting a lot of hurt from society, and so it causes us to be very unforgiving. And even in the church too. You see, in the church, we have a lot of hurting men. And I can say it from the perspective of a pastor, that sometimes some things comes to the pastor's office that you couldn't believe that these things are happening in society, because there are men who are hurting, but they sometimes they not even can forgive because they can't let anybody know that that is hurting them.
Wow.
Thank you, Pastor Hyman. Major friend, you were talking about the ego and identity. And again, the issue of men's love language being respect, And men are told that girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. And boys are made from dogtails, snails. The identity of a man. So he's to carry out the garbage because anything have to do with mess and stuff. And I believe that mess with the psyche of a man as well. It's not just that it's something to be done, but he's already put at a low esteem value to deal with certain things. How do we correct that identity issue?
That is going to be a major task because it really is likely to have to be changed at parenting. And part of the challenge is that men teach boys identity, they teach girls relationship. And so when if the fathers aren't present, then we already have an identity deficit. And if the father who is present himself has a dysfunctional sense of identity, then that is also going to be a problem, because then that is what is passed on. Uh, it is therefore going to require, I believe, a conversation that needs to go across many sectors of society, because you've mentioned the whole issue of, yes, the garbage and made of dog tails and snails, etc. But it goes also to even the whole issue of communication, because one of the reasons that you'll find that men also find it so difficult to forgive is that in many cases they are not equipped to communicate, especially verbally, in tough and emotional situations. And that comes from how, again, we were socialized. Because when you were growing up as a boy, if something affected you, or offended you, or hurt you, you were not supposed to talk about it. You say you chat too much, you go like a girl picnic. Yes, you were expected to go fist it out. You're expected to go fight it out. And so, how do I now have conversation about these tough things that hurt me, that will allow for me to be able to come to a point where there can be empathy, which is actually one of the major ingredients for forgiveness? Right? Studies have shown that when a man is able to empathize, when a man is able to put himself in the position of the offender, the level of forgiveness and the likelihood of forgiveness increases significantly. Unlike a girl who from early out she's taught to put herself in the position of others, etc. At the end of the day, these what we tend to call soft skills, which I disagree with the terminology, but these soft skills are not taught to our boys. And so really there's going to have to be a conversation change that's going to be happening from as early as boyhood. Now, for the men, it's going to take a little bit more, and it also probably mean that some of us as men, whom by whatever means the Lord has blessed us to be able to understand that difference, we might need to be, it may not be considered father figure in some cases, but to insert ourselves in a way that in an influential role, and influential being there, and showing our men that it is okay. Yes, we forgive them. We give them the pattern. Yes, we have the discussions. These are the things that we need to talk about and show, because at the end of the day, they need to know that, guess what? To forgive, you first of all need to acknowledge your pain.
Yeah,
Because you can't truly forgive until you've acknowledged the pain. We are not
that's right.
trying to get you to brush aside the pain or behave as if you were not hurt. Acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the anger. It is important that you acknowledge it. Allow yourself to feel that you were disrespected or hurt. It is okay, because that's the first place that you start. Yes, and then now we need to be having the conversations. And so it is, I think it's going to be a myriad of approaches that would be required, that which can be done from the little boys that are still quite malleable, but then also what do we do with our men that are already so hurt, as Pastor Hyman was saying, that are already so formed. Yes, how do we have those discussions? How do we model for them this issue of forgiveness and being real about our emotions?
Quite a lot there to process. Pastor
Mhm.
Hyman, for a minute, even as we go near to closure, how can the church facilitate what the Major Damien friend has spoken? What any ideas as how we can create environments of empathy, of allowing our men safe spaces to share their feelings and admit that they are hurt in a safe space and process it, help them with their communication. Does the church have a place to play? Any idea about that, Pastor Hyman?
I believe the church has a great responsibility in that regard, Pastor Bailey, in the sense that every church, regardless of the populace, regardless of the amount of members that a church has, every church must have an active men's ministry. Men's ministry and having people that are competent to deal with men to occupy those ministries, because we realize that in many churches, whether regardless of the denomination it is, most of the congregants are women, and so you'll always have a flourishing women's ministries arm, but not necessarily a flourishing men's ministries arm. So what the church can do is have safe space, like the mailbox here. They don't call it the mailbox, but there's got to be a program that is done by men, organized by men, just for men. Especially sometimes we believe that married men are okay because they have joined themselves with a nice woman, and everything is going on dandy and nice. But sometimes men are hurting even in their relationships, and when they come and realize that other men are facing those similar challenges, sometimes it gives them an ease of to say, there's somebody there that is being affected by it. So Brother Brown is getting this feeling. I want to share a short story before we close. It's very, very short. There's a story told of a
Let's do
zoo.
it quickly. I think we're up on it.
Yes,
Yes.
there's a story that is told of a zoo, that there was a gorilla in the zoo that died, and they needed a gorilla. Now, because it would take so long to get a gorilla and to train, and they allowed a man to be placed in a gorilla mascot. The gorilla was there, he was there, and on his first day was there jumping about, and everybody was excited. He was so excited that he went on the edge and dropped in the lion's cave. And in the lion's den. And when the lion was coming toward him, he bawled out, "Help, help! I'm not a real gorilla. I'm not a real gorilla." The lion went over to him and said, be quiet before you'll get both of us fired. You see, one of the reality is that we are having a church full of a real church, but the men have fake emotions. They are real men, but fake emotions.
Wow. We have to end it there. We passed our time. So we want to say thanks to our producer, Tony K. Bromfield, to our technical engineer, Tamar Butler, for technical support. We sound like we need a part two. Thanks to our guests, yourself, Pastor Christoph Hyman, and Major Damien Friend. In other words, he's a major friend. Good stuff. Yeah.
No, really, really, we have to look at a part two. Hope that you gentlemen may be available. So great to have you both with us. So thanks to our listeners, our viewers, participants. Really appreciate you being with us. This is the program, The Mailbox, where we challenge, encourage, and empower our men. I'm Kevin Bailey and my co-host here,
Courtney Morrison. See you next week, same time, same place, Monday.
Monday. Yeah. Blessings.
Blessings.
Thanks, gentlemen.
How they got man them there? The match man, the look and the tan them there. So Lord, we